Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vistapad Paramahansa Dravida Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudika Acharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glory to the assembled devotees All glory to the assembled devotees All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtapayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance and classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 25th day of October 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're in Canto 4, the creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 27, attack by Chandavega on the city of King Puranjan and the character of Kalakanya. Text number 15. Te Chandabega Nuchara Puranjana Purang Yada Hartamare Bhire Tatra Pratyashedat Pajagaraha Te Chandavega Nuchara Puranjana Purang Yada Hartamare Bhire Tatra Pratyashedhat Pajagaraha Chaitandavega Puranjana Purang Yada Hartamare Bhire Tatra Pratyashedhat Pajagaraha Te Chandaveganuchara Puranjana Purang Yada Hartamare Bhire Tatra Pratyashedat Pajagaraha Te Chandaveganuchara Puranjana Purang Yada Pratyashedat Pajagaraha Te Chandaveganuchara Puranjana Purang Yada Pratyashedat Pajagaraha Te, all of them. Chandavega, of Chandavega. Anuchara, followers. Puranjana, of King Puranjan. Puram, city. Yada, when. Hartam, to plunder. Are bhire, began. Tatra, there. Pratyashedhat, defended. Pajagaraha, the big serpent. Translation. When King Gandharvaraj Chandavega and his followers began to plunder the city of Puranjan, a snake with 5 hoods began to defend the city. Purport. When one is sleeping, the life air remains active in different dreams. The 5 hoods of the snake indicate that the life air is surrounded by 5 kinds of air known as prana, apana, dhyana, udana, and samana. Now, when the body is inactive, the prana, or the life air, is active. Up to the age of 50, one can actively work for sense gratification. But after the 50th year, one's energy decreases, although one can with great strain work for 2 or 3 more years, perhaps up to the 55th year. Thus, the 55th year is generally taken by government regulations as the final year for retirement. The energy which is fatigued after 50 years is figuratively described herein as a serpent with 5 hoods. So I'm going to read the next verse also. Sasaptibi shatar eko vingshatya chashatang samaha Puranjana Puradyaksho Gandharva Yuyudhe Bali. The 5-hooded serpent, the superintendent and protector of the city of King Puranjan, fought with the Gandharvas for 100 years. He fought alone with all of them, although they numbered 720. The purport, 360 days and 360 nights combined to become the 720 soldiers of Chandavega, or time. One has to fight these soldiers throughout one's lifespan, beginning with birth and ending with death. This fight is called the struggle for existence. Despite this struggle, however, the living entity does not die. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.20, the living entity is eternal. So I'll say, you say, many of you know this verse. Jayate mriyate vakadachan Nayam bhutva bhavitava nabhuya. Ado nityak shasvatoyam purano. Mahanyate hanyamane sharire. All right, I'm reading from the actual translation. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Actually, the living entity does not take birth, nor does he die. But he has to fight with the stringent laws of material nature throughout the entire span of his lifetime. He must also face different kinds of miserable conditions. Despite all this, the living entity, due to illusion, thinks that he is well situated in sense gratification. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana salakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So one of the verses that especially opens our eyes with knowledge is this one that Srila Prabhupada quotes here in this Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how many times he quotes it in his lectures, but he would often quote, especially the last line, Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is not slain when the body is slain. So this usage of the word hanyate hanyamane, which means slain and dies, is especially pertinent because he's speaking on the battlefield, and so you find this word or its variants quite a lot, especially in that second chapter. So this is a game changer. If one actually believes this verse, and this is kind of summarizing the instruction of that whole section on the soul, those 20 verses from 2011 to 2030 in the Bhagavad Gita, beginning of Krishna's instruction, then one should immediately wonder, well, what am I doing in my life? I'm striving to get this and do this and go here and get this relationship, break that relationship, and it's all having to do with this body, which is slain at the time of death. But I myself am going on to another situation, and I don't know what. And all of the things that I've worked so hard to attain, the health of the body, the happiness of the body, the mental and emotional relationships, very, very complicated. It's all destroyed with this body because it's attached to this body. So what about me? What's my destiny? And how can I work so that for the benefit of my actual self? These are the questions that we're taught to ask, but are actually all flowing from the truth of this one verse. And as Prabhupada points out in the purport to this verse, it's very close to another verse in the Upanishads. You find a similar verse, and there's another one that's almost exactly like this. And he points out this is one of the reasons why the Bhagavad Gita is known as the Gita Upanishad, because it summarizes and gives the essence of all the Upanishadic knowledge, which themselves give the essence of the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas. So I'd like to also, if you would indulge me for a minute, you may remember a few purports back, Prabhupada quoted the first half of a very pertinent verse for this whole pastime that we're reading. Ayu hodati vaipungsam udyanastanyashana so tasya te yachana nita uttama shloka vartaya. So the purport there gives a very wonderful description of the moral that we should get from this story. The whole idea is that this is being spoken to King Prachanabarishad, convincing him to give up his vast absorption in trying to go to the heavenly planets, performing all these horrible sacrifices, animals. He's completely entangled. So now it is instructing him, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport there, and he's exactly pertinent because it's about, that verse means that the rising and setting of the sun steals away the life of everyone except those who use their time for glorification of the Lord. And then in the purport, Prabhupada gives a purport which basically summarizes the lesson we should get from this whole allegory. So if you would indulge me, I'm going to simply switch over to this side. And I'll just read that translation of that and this fairly short purport here. Both by the rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. This verse confirms the great importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. And that's exactly what Narada Muni, that's the motto, or that's the conclusion of everything he's speaking to King Prachadabhari Shatva. Time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and the sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. Excuse me. I got water, okay. Even a fraction of the duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. Prabhupada would love to speak how even a moment's wasted, you can't buy it back with tons of gold. Human life is simply awarded to a living entity, or jiva, so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. But he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spiritual spark of the complete whole, and his happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activities. The Lord is the complete spirit whole, and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all identical with him. Once a person comes into contact with any one of the above-mentioned energies of the Lord, through the proper channel of devotional service, the door to perfection is immediately opened. In the Bhagavad Gita 240, the Lord has explained each such contact in the following words. This is another famous verse you can chant along. Nehabhikamanashosti pratyavayo navidyate svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Prabhupada gives a translation here. Endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. A slight beginning of such activities is sufficient even to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fears. Close quote. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, so the transcendental topics of the Lord, injected through the ear by the pure devotee of the Lord, can act very efficiently. Oral realization of the transcendental messages implies total realization, just as fructification of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. The realization for a moment in the association of pure devotees like Shukadev Goswami prepares one's life, complete life for eternity. And thus the sun fails to rob the pure devotee of his duration of life, inasmuch as he is constantly busy in the devotional service of the Lord, purifying his existence. Death is a symptom of the material infection of the eternal living being. Only due to material infection is the eternal living entity subjected to the law of birth, death, old age, and disease. And so I'll stop there and go back to the verse of the Bhagavatam we're reading. And you can see what's happening here is that Puranjan, he stands in for the conditioned soul, for the ordinary conditioned soul, who has built up, whether it's a vast kingdom or it's simply a little hovel that he's working and he's got his wife and kids and he's working, whatever it may be, everyone, especially in the human form of life, we calculate how we can maximize our wealth and our influence and our happiness and reduce as much of the misery as possible. And we go day by day, absorbed in those plans. And of course, as life goes on, there's so much regret. Why didn't I do this? Why did this happen? Why was I so unlucky to contract that disease? And so many other things are going on. So now we're seeing, and we know what's happened, how Puranjan was matched up with this lady, and they've had, 1,100 sons and 110 daughters, and then from then there's a huge family that's gone on, and he's absorbed. Of course, it's kind of it's an allegory. So and each one of those sons and daughters had to be married over, so he's completely absorbed in it. So as time goes on, this is what this time is, Chanda Vega. And the daughters, or the soldiers of time, are the days and nights, which you're spending and you're using for these material purposes, and they're taking away your lifespan. Your lifespan is being drained out, and for no ultimate purpose. because you're not making any progress toward actually achieving the position of ultimate happiness and security. You should always remember those things, that the heavenly planets are attractive to people because they present a vast time scale with a vastly greater ability to enjoy. And so that's very attractive. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't be attracted, don't be bewildered by these flowery words of the Vedas. Pushpitam vacham prabhadanta vipaschada. Those who don't really know what the Vedas are about, they say that's what they're about. Because there's more of that, in that kind of section. And they're attracted by the promises of vast delights in future life, this planet or higher planets. So then he said something quite startling. Trigunya Vishaya Veda. That mostly the Vedas are dealing with the three modes of nature, trying to get you to come up to the mode of goodness, giving you all kinds of rules and regulations to control your lower urges, the whole Mano Samhita, and there's so much Vedic knowledge. But he's saying that if you just deal with that, you still stay within the modes of nature. That's the whole point of Narada's instructing Vyasadeva to write the Bhagavatam. Because he was, there's something called bridge preaching, which can be effective, but it can also, you can get onto that bridge and never get off the bridge, or even go on the other side of the bridge. In other words, we don't want to, come on, Krishna's consciousness is a little too far out for most people, so we'll hide this, and just present, a sort of mode of goodness aspect of Krishna consciousness. But that's exactly what Vyasadeva did. Vyasadeva presented all these other Puranas and the Mahabharata and everything. And it was all in an effort to help, especially people of the Kali Yuga who can't just hear properly. They have to read books. Okay, we'll write everything down. But he wasn't, he himself felt dissatisfied after writing them all. And he figured it out, and it was confirmed by Narada, because you haven't presented the ultimate truth wholly and solely, Krishna, the service of Krishna, what's going on in the spiritual world. In other words, the pure bhakti as the means and the method to achieve real happiness. You've skirted around it and mixed it in, but people will just, as he said, something like, people will just take the concessions for animal sacrifice, and they'll forget all about the restrictions. And in this way, they'll corrupt the Shastra, and that's what happened in Kali Yuga. They started slaughtering animals on the basis, oh look, it says you can, and so therefore Buddha came, and we had the Mayavad, philosophy to try to get back to the Vedas. The whole story. So Bhagavatam is very dear to the Vaishnavas because it deals wholly and solely with the actual Dharma, Savai Paro Dharma, which awakens pure love for Krishna and loving devotion. It's not meant for artha. Dharmasya apavargasya. It's meant for apavarga. It's right there in the beginning of Bhagavatam, second chapter of the whole book. So each canto and every word really it brings you to that point. Although individually there may be something that looks like it's skirting around that, but ultimately it comes back to that. And so this wonderful allegory, Narada Muni, he's a Shaktivesh avatar, which means he's invested with potency from Krishna. And there are many different Shaktivesh. We read about Prithu. He's Shaktivesh also, although he's often spoken as the Supreme Personality, but he's Shaktivesh. So, but they specialize. Prithu especially has the Pala Shakti, means that he's the ideal king. And he showed the greatest example of protecting people. He chastised the earth. He things had gotten pretty bad under Vena, who had really, So he's Pala Shakti. And there's these four Kumaras, with Jnana Shakti. Of course, they, preach Bhakti. They have their own sampradaya, but they especially embody the Jnana. So Narada Muni is Bhakti Shakti. Wherever he goes, he speaks just suitable for the candidate to enter bhakti and to he spoke to Dhruva in one way, to the hunter in another way, and he's giving this Parachadabarishat exactly what he needs, good instruction to give up all his material sacrifice. So this verse, Ayur Harati Vaipungsam, which is exactly pertinent what we're reading here, because it's talking about the days and the nights and this struggle to maintain the body as old age, steals the health and of the body. And if you're completely materially absorbed, I'm not getting old. I'm old. I'm in the old age. There's no question of middle age anymore. And we all, everyone who's in body goes through these changes. But the question is, what is your consciousness as that happens? And I just shudder to think. It's so. To see the material, those who are grossly materialists, it's so moving, because they've put all of their energy into enjoying the senses, and inevitably the senses are going to get weak. They're going to become unable to enjoy. Your ability to, and what have you got left? All those memories. Oh, and I used to be able to do this and this. I experienced once, my mother was a saintly lady. She chanted Hare Krishna. She was a subscriber to Bhakti Godhead magazine, and everything. But basically, she was absorbed, and I would visit her. She had lived 20 years past my father. My father died when he was 81. She was 25 years. She died at 96. So there was 20 years after he passed that she was around. And I would visit her periodically. I would fly from wherever I was, Miami. I flew from here a couple of times. And gradually there was some, loss of memory and things like that. So we had all these books of photographs from the early, 20th century. She was born in 1910. And we had a few children pictures, the marriage pictures, and all these old things. So we would take them out, and she would go through, and she would recall this, recall that, and there was a great joy, to be able to recall all those things. You're trying to relive it, You're in a sense, it's kind of reliving those things. So that's what material life is all about. At a certain point, death is approaching, and what have you got? All those memories, those wonderful family outings and all those things. And now, of course, you have videos you can show, things like that. But that's, from the point of view of Krishna conscious philosophy, that's, it's a tragedy that a human life is used for that, for material things, and simply ensuring another birth. All of those unfulfilled desires take you to another birth. So now why does it say that for those who spend their time glorifying Uttama Shloka? It's wonderful they use that name. Uttama Shloka means he is glorified in the best of shlokas, the best of poems. Why isn't pure devotees' life taken away? We see and we know there's a history. We have all of our acharyas, and eventually they left the physical body. There's no question of it. But why does it? Who can say why isn't their life being taken away by the rising, setting of the sun? What's the difference between how time affects materialists and how time affects the devotees?
They use their time to serve the Krishna for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things is, the main thing, I was just thinking of this morning as we did Tulsi Puja, and is that we're going to be worshiping Tulsi forever. This is not something that we just do here, in 2020 in SanDiego or some other temple. But this is training up. It's the activity that doesn't end. The point is, when your entire time is used in serving Krishna, you're on the platform of eternity. In other words, you're doing something that you're going to continue doing when this body finally falls. And so what is the sun doing? It may be taking away the life of this body, there's no question of that. But it's not taking your life away. On the other hand, if your consciousness is completely absorbed in material things, then at the time of death, you're going to get a whole different consciousness. In other words, your life is over. That life is finished because it's wrapped up in matter. And so you may become an animal, or if you're a human being, it'd be a whole different situation. So everything changes. But really, the great devotees, they're already living in their eternal relation with Krishna and know what it is and are engaging in it, even in this lifetime, living on two planes, actually. Yes, they're interacting with the external world on the basis of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada showed, but it's clear in the Shastra and the CC especially, that there's another life. There's their internal life where they're serving Krishna in their Swarup city. They're that's real mukti. Mukti hivandhara swarupena vyavastati. To be situated in your swarup means your actual form, as spiritual form. That's liberation, and it doesn't have to wait until you leave this body. You can be liberated in this very body. So that's what I understand, is that time acts differently for devotees. Time is an agent. You're using time in the service of Krishna, and that's the proper use of time. And therefore, that very severe statement in the Gita, Mrityu sarvaharas chaham, which Krishna says in the 10th chapter, that applies to the materialists. That everything they have, they're identifying with the body, and so what is mine, what is giving me pleasure and sometimes pain, is all related to the body. So all of that is taken away. If you're a billionaire or if you're a pauper in the street, whatever you have, these poor guys are walking around with their carts, they're trying to protect their little belongings, Well, when they die, that's all taken away. Now, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but there a couple of months ago, a fellow died right out here in the alleyway. He had all this stuff, and he expired. They called the police, and he came, took him away. So his stuff stayed there, and eventually a few guys came, and picked over it and got it. So that his stuff is taken away. Everything is taken. The body's taken away, and everything. Is little. And Bill Gates' stuff is going to be taken away. Multi-million-dollar houses here and there, and all of the stocks and everything. That's not going to protect him. Bill Gates' body will be there, and whatever's attached to the body, So, but devotees, they're invest as little as possible in the body and its relations and the things. They don't feel that they possess anything. This is this very important word, akinchana or nishkinchana. They don't feel that they possess anything. Everything belongs to Krishna, including my body. That's one of the definitions of devotion. Those who know the verse can chant. Sarvopadi vinimuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakta ruchite. So sarva upadi vinimuktam means being free from all of the false designations which pertain to the body. The gender and the age and the name and all of the bank account and everything. All of these are designations that are false because they don't belong to the soul. Tatparatvena nirmalam, being purified of those. And with the senses, Rishikena, serving the master of the senses, Rishikesha. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, that's bhakti. That's pure bhakti if you do it purely, you see. So that's very closely aligned and sometimes said to be practically synonymous with the Anyabhilasha Dashunyam verse. That's there in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So you can see how if you actually understand that, then you're not, the prospect of death doesn't freak you out, In other words, you're just continuing doing what you're doing. Take away this body which is no longer useful for your service, and have purely a spiritual body and continue the service. So therefore, this Chandavega time and the daughters and sons of time, the 720 days and nights, are not, you don't feel that you're coming to the end, because you're already established in your eternal relationship with Krishna. So that's the advanced pure platform that we're trying to strive for. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is giving us. And this is what Narada Muni is giving to Prachinabhari. He's explaining to him through this allegory that you're not only wasting your time, but you're implicating yourself in material activities and ensuring a lot of suffering. I've been hearing the pastime of Vajrayana, of Srila Prabhupada's lectures on the first chapter of the 6th canto. It's interesting to see the context. Why? How did that pastime get to be spoken by Shikadeva to Pariksit? Because at the end of the 5th canto, there's all of these descriptions of hell, and it's just a few of them. It's a sampling. Just make your skin crawl. If you what is it? If you eat you kill animals and eat them. You eat the lobster and stuff like that. I never did that. I could never stand to even think about that. But I remember when I was in New York, you go by one of these special restaurants, and in the window they have a fish tank, and in there is the lobster, still alive, saying, "Oh, this is really fresh. It'll be a fresh lobster." You come in and, oh my God, you know. I mean, for a devotee, that's just horrendous to think about. And but some people, oh, this is very attractive. This is very expensive. You know, let's do it. And there's people are sitting in there in their fine clothes, thinking they're, you know, having a great time. So this hell is about them. It says, you yourself will be thrown into a boiling vat of oil, you know, and cooked, not just once, but, you know, will go on for millions of years because you don't die, but you feel all that pain. And the amazing thing is that it can be taken just very quickly in terms of actual time, but because you're only in your subtle body, the time changes, and it feels like millions of years you're suffering this. So there's like, I think 30 or so of those hells described. And King Parikshit was mortified, you know, because he's a Vaishnava. He's a soft-hearted Vaishnava. How can these people be saved from this hellish punishment? Please tell me. So Shukadev, he tests him. And he gives him first examples of material prayashchitta, atonement. And, you know, austerity and doing this, study of it. And this can atone for the sins, so you can neutralize, you know. But Parikshit immediately rejects it. He says, well, yeah, but it doesn't really stop the desire to perform the sins. You may expiate some results of sins, but you still got the desire, so you're still implicated. And the example he uses, what's the example? You remember? There's a big animal. Yeah, elephant bathing. Kunjara Shochabat. That's the last line of the last words of the verse. An elephant, you know, goes through the forest, he gets so dirty, you know, he's sweating, you know, he wants to take a bath. And he's got his built-in shower head. And so he goes into the tank or the lake, your pond, you know, and he takes a wonderful bath. How's he going to dry off? Comes out, you know, no gumption. So he rolls around on the ground again, and he's all dusty and dirty again. So similarly, someone who atones for the sin goes to church and confesses, you know, oh, I did this, Father, please forgive me. Okay, say so many Hail Marys, and I think they do that, isn't that part of it? Something like that. Yeah, there's a prescription. All right, I'm clean, I'm ready to go again. On Monday, you know, more sin, same thing. I got a great deal. I just do whatever I want all week, then expiation on the weekend. Does it remind you of something? Prabhupada says it's the greatest offense. Nam no balajyasya hi papa buddhi. To maintain a sinful mentality with planning on sin and, you know, and with the idea that, oh, I got it covered. I could just chant a little Hare Krishna and I'll get expiated and I'll be ready to go. Prabhupada said this is the greatest offense. And you're certainly not going to get love of God that way. So, but the holy name is the way to get free of all sin and come to the platform of not wanting to perform any sin anymore. And that's, you know, everything begins, especially in this age, with the chanting and hearing of the holy name. And so that brings us back to Ayar Haridivai Pungsam. How can one spend one's entire time, you know, glorifying the Lord? That's what it means. Yachano Nita means using all your time, all your moments in glorifying Krishna. Well, that's what real serious bhakti is all about. Is that you mold your life in such a way that every moment is used for planning to serve Krishna, serving Krishna, getting others to serve Krishna, glorifying the Lord, writing, speaking. Prabhupada's life, as we saw Prabhupada do. Perfectly exemplified. Sometimes he would be dealing with accounts, you know, money going here and there, but it was all for the purpose of preaching, building a temple, printing the books. Those were the main two expenses that he was using. And, you know, flying around the world with a couple of servants, that took money, but is all for serving Krishna. And the proof was, you know, even as time inevitably takes its toll on the body and his health was failing, he never stayed in one spot till the very end there. He's traveling around, going, even amazingly, and that one trip, he was really, really ill, you know, and yet he said, oh, I want to go to the West one more time. And he made it as far as the UK. Maybe you know the pastimes. And I don't know if he even spoke. I don't know if he was even speaking. Devotees would see him, he was so thin, he had his dark glasses on. But just the fact that he made the effort to come to see them had such an impact on all of those devotees, and all over the world, those devotees who heard about it. Just proving that Prabhupada was totally niskinchana. He had not a smidgen, little portion of selfishness for my purpose. He was sacrificing everything for preaching, for giving us a chance to be the devotees. And so that inspiration can be there down through the ages. Just like, with Jesus Christ, his sacrifice and what he did inspires Christians to this day. Serious, Christians. So the same example is there with Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas, and great devotees. To show us what real devotion means is to be as unconcerned as possible with one's own so-called pleasures. Yes, maintain the health; it's necessary. But that's basically it. It's right there in those same verses. What is it? Kamasinindriya priti labo jiveta yavata. It means one should not employ his material desires in sense gratification, but just get what you need to keep body and soul together. Minimum for health. So what should we endeavor for? Then what are we going to use? Jivasya tat prajigyasa noto yashya kamabi. In researching the absolute truth, glorifying the absolute truth, spreading the absolute truth about Krishna, and nothing else should be the goal of one's works. It's throughout, that sets the tone for the whole Bhagavatam right there at the beginning. So this pastime we're seeing here is part of that lesson. We read the whole allegory. And what I actually gave a class yesterday to some devotees in New Jersey. This is the first day they asked me to give a Sunday feast talk. So it was 4 o'clock here. I was able to come over, it was 7 o'clock there. So I chose that fall and redemption of the soul, which I had given, I think, another. And Prabhupada's explanation of that in the 4th canto. We're going to come upon that. It has to do with Puranjan being reborn as a woman, and then he meets the super soul, and the super soul is trying to remind him, don't you remember? We were very happy in the spiritual world. I'm your old friend. So Prabhupada takes the advantage of that opportunity to write about the fall of the jiva. It's very explicit. He's explaining it there. So that's part of the whole lesson here is how of course it has a happy ending. You have Puranjan. His whole life is devastated, but he gets reborn as a woman, and she now marries a devotee who eventually leaves the body, and then at that time the super soul comes and reminds him who he is. So we're reminded every time we attend class, every time we hear a talk and read Prabhupada's books, we're reminded again and again and again who we are. We're spirit soul, we're servants of Krishna. And here's the benefits of serving Krishna, unlimited, way beyond anything material you could imagine. Eternal happiness, going back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada came in the middle of a very troublesome time in American history, and he gave hope to really, it was a time of revolution. I'm telling you, many of you don't remember, I know even you were too young, but 1968 was a year when we thought the revolution's coming. It's coming this year for sure, but it didn't come. Instead we had 2 assassinations, of Martin Luther King and so forth. And Nixon was elected. We're just like, for others, it was like the end of the world for us. And so it was like a time of devastation. But by that time, the movement had already been going for a couple of years, and the devotees who were taking advantage of it, they were living the revolution, the actual revolution in consciousn's. And that's still the only revolution that will work. Any other social adjustment, it's not going to happen. It's continually hope and dashing the hope and dashing hope. That is exactly what material life is. Oh yeah, I'm going to enjoy now. Now I can get some money. I'm going to enjoy. And then you do something, and oh yeah, that was enjoying, but okay, I do it again because now it's over. So, and eventually you come to the point where you can't do it anymore. The money is gone, or you have the money but the body is gone. You got the memories in the videos. It's always a tragedy and a disaster. Material life, every time. But this spiritual life gives you great hope. And even if we just read, it's in one of these purports, Neha Bhikkhamanoshosti. Even if you don't succeed in this lifetime, it's money in the bank. The process goes on. You'll be exactly pick up from where you left off. So that should encourage us to endeavor, and it should encourage us to endeavor hard and get it, to be greedy. We should be greedy. I remember when I first started memorizing verses, long ago, and there was a period where I was like, every day I would memorize a verse, and I was greedy for those verses, the Bhagavatam verses. Like just recently I learned one, and I happened to talk to Vaisheshika about something. I said, Prabhu, would you like to hear this verse I just learned? I said, and he started chanting it because he knew this one. So it was a great exchange, So it's like, this is what we should be greedy about. So this one, I'll just share it with you because, it's exactly what Prahlad was talking about, and the Uttama Shloka. I mean, so the pastime where the boys get hungry and they ask Krishna and Balaram, please help us. Okay, you go to the Brahmins over there. They're performing these sacrifices, and it's not too late there. They can give you some of the prasadam that they're offering there. So Krishna says, it's very wonderful. He says, don't mention my name. You mention Balaram's name. You know why? Because Krishna was known as a Vaishya, but Balaram was known as the son of Vasudeva. He was a Kshatriya. So maybe they'll be more likely to give to a Kshatriya. In other words, they're totally materialistic. So they went, and the first thing they said, oh, Krishna and Balaram are over here. They disobeyed that order. They immediately went. And they're very hungry, and you should give them some food. And they said, and it's not yet too late to give us the food. They knew about the sacrifice. They wouldn't even answer him. These smarta Brahmins, too much. I can never, whenever I hear about the smarta Brahmins, I said, yeah, not so smart. That's too much involved with the smriti, So the boys went back disappointed. Oh, they wouldn't even give us a yes or no. So Krishna chuckles, and he says, okay, now you go to the wives of the Brahmins. There's a house there where they're all staying, and then they're going to take part, because at a certain point. So they go there, and they said, Krishna and Balaram are nearby, and they're hungry, and we wonder if you can give us some food. As soon as I heard those names, they said, no way, we're not giving you any food. We'll wrap it up. We're going with you, We want to see him. They had fallen in love with him just by hearing about him, just like Rukmini. You remember Rukmini? So you heard about it, which is instructive for us. We can also do that. So off they go, so this is the verse that describes what they saw when they first saw Krishna, That's it. Hopefully I got it after all of this. Shamam hiranyapadedim vanamalya barha dhatu pavalanatavesha manuvatangse vinyasya hastam itarena dunanam abjam karno palalaka kapolnamukabjahasam. Now, so what this means is Shamam. So they see the form of Krishna, and he's got the beautiful Shama, this bluish black complexion, very effulgent. Hiranyapadidim, the golden and yellow garments, silken garments, wonderful contrast. Vanamalya, the garland of forest flowers, very fragrant, beautiful, hanging down to his knees. Barha, the peacock plume. Dhatu Pravala, and he's got designs painted on his body with the mineral pigments of the forest. That's one of what the boys would do, and Krishna would do that. And Balaram. Natavesham, dressed just like a dancing actor. Everything in its perfect place and very graceful. He's walking along. And then it has this very delightful, unique aspect. He's got one arm over a friend, as he's walking along, leisurely. And with the other hand, you got one hand on the shoulder of a friend, and the other hand he's twirling a lotus. And there's a whole inner meaning to that, that he knows that their wives are looking at him. He said he's enjoying their love for him. This is a sign of that. There's a lot of stuff that's described this. And then beautiful karnot paladika kapola mukabjahasam. So his lotus face, his mukabjahasam, he says, over one ear, he's got these two beautiful little lilies, fragrant lily from the lake, and alaka kapola, and his hair is hanging down and over his cheeks. Usually it comes back, but this is over his cheeks. It's describing it, and so that's just a wonderful description of Krishna. And if you're a little tuned to it, hey, that's another way of remembering Krishna. Now let me memorize it and share it. And that's what the devotees do. And that's how they enjoy. Krishna says, right in the Bhagavad Gita. That's real enjoyment. And it doesn't depend on, how strong your senses are. Well, you got to be able to hear, that's true. But that's there mostly. And so that's what the great gift we've been given. The Bhagavatam is full of verses like that, and so much philosophy, give us strength. And it's very dear to the Vaishnavas. So we should plumb these depths. We should learn them. I made a few poems because I know many devotees aren't going to take the trouble. It's a little difficult to get the Sanskrit, but it's not that hard. You just go over and I can help. So that's exactly what Higher Hearted Bhakti is about. If you use your time for hearing about Krishna, studying about Krishna, helping others to become Krishna conscious in so many ways, which includes sweeping the floor. And while you sweep the floor, you can chant, right? Maybe you've even experienced that. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. When you're doing service for Krishna like that and you're chanting at the same time, it's a perfect platform. Prabhupada warned, don't think that the sweeper is any less than the pujari. It all depends on the heart. On Bhava Grahi Janardana. It's Bhava Grahi Janardana. Janardana looks for the mood, for the heart. Not so much what you're doing, but how you're doing it. So I've gone a little bit over time. And I think you know what these verses were saying. Any questions, any comments? Okay, we'll give Balaram first dibs. Yeah, he took notes, right?
You're talking about how Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva was feeling like, I want to say
despondent?
Yeah, despondent.
Yeah.
And Narada Muni came and he chided him and said, you have to write the Bhagavatam. Full glorification of Krishna. So him feeling despondent, dissatisfied. So is it within devotees' lives? Because sometimes devotees, maybe they feel a little dissatisfied or despondent. So is this necessarily a sign that the spiritual master, Krishna, is not pleased with them?
It's hard to say because the question is why. If they've given up their service and they went home and they're despondent, then I would say that that's that the spiritual master is not pleased with that. But if it depends what you do with it. What comes, what's happening around that despondence. Is it such to the point that you've lost your faith? Maybe not in Krishna and Prabhupada, but you've lost your faith that Krishna can empower you to practice devotional service. This is a sneaky way that Maya can recapture you. So I tried, but it's not, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's an excuse the mind is giving you now. Well, since I've decided not to do it, now I can just do anything. But as long as you're making the effort. Now the despondence means, like I know on Sankirtan, I haven't done much book distribution, but I know it can sometimes be so discouraging that you get devotees sit down on the curb, right? Sometimes, and but usually if they're smart, they're reading a book there, right? They're reading and trying to get enlivened to do it. So the mood of despondence can lead to desperately praying to Krishna and the Guru and the Acharyas for the strength to practice a certain service. But if it leads to paralysis and giving up devotional service, then it's certainly not happy. So it's a question of, because Krishna kindness is the process is you're going to meet impediments. Why else would we? Why else? That's why we have Ganesh. Yeah. So just like Vyasadeva, he had become despondent, but he was taking shelter of Narada Muni's things, instruction. He actually guessed why, and so he just didn't give up. He followed the instructions. Okay, he sat in meditation, and had a vision of Krishna and pastimes and of Maya behind, and he understood that, okay, this means that, that I should write the Bhagavatam, and he did. So that's what we should do with our distressed condition. It should double our eagerness to pray. Prayer is such an important thing. We should chant prayerfully, chant Hare Krishna prayerfully, and so many prayers to the holy name, to please give me more attachment. Agadamana Yashoda Nandano Nandasunu. There's a verse two verses actually in the Namashtaka by Rupa Goswami, where you're praying for more attraction for the holy name. So that can be one of the sources of despondence. I've been chanting, but I'm falling asleep, and I have no taste, after all these years. Well, you got to pray, and you got to, take assessment of your devotional life and see, where you're falling short. So that's what would be my, unfortunately, not as concise an answer I was given, but that's what I would do with that one. Anyone else have a question? Okay, go ahead, Ravi.
Prabhuji, as a neophyte...
You can take it off for a minute. I think we're safe.
Yeah, so as a neophyte, should we be focusing on, yes, I should not waste time, I should, right now I'm in a very bad state, I need to, serve devotees and get closer to Krishna? Or should we think about, okay, or should we think about planning for serving Krishna? I mean, okay, I'm good at this, so although it is a little bit entangling, it's okay. I mean, I should focus more on serving Krishna rather than what might be risky for me. Or
this is why we have spiritual masters, In other words, get advice from someone who you trust, who can give you specific advice for your situation, because you're asking kind of a general question, but it obviously can pertain to a very specific situation. Because we have to live in this world, and keep body and soul together, obviously. One solution, join the temple, But I think that may not be feasible. And you have so many skills that you can use for devotional service, but how you balance, your devotional activities with your outside activities. There's a certain minimum. There's a certain route that has to be there. The chanting of the rounds and the following the principles. And reading Prabhupada's books, hearing, both of you are attending very nicely, So you have to assess, how much am I really committed, or is it necessitated for me to maintain a position in the outside world, Because, I had a job, I wasn't an engineer, and so forth, But I had a job, I had a car, an apartment, But luckily I didn't have 1,100 children, or one child. So when a crisis came in my life, I said, okay, I got to join now, This is Hare Krishna, is really where my mind is at, Anyway, so everyone is an individual, but as far as how much you should accept and so forth, focus mostly on the basic Krishna conscious principles: chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regular principles, studying, and associated with devotees. How much more you can do, specifically with the skills that you have, that you can find out from authorities, and how you can contribute your special services and so forth. So I think it has to be an individual consultation, which is not, but that's the general principle that I would say, Okay, I think we should adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.